What's up, prehistoric cave people of the modern millennia? This is the left coast caveman mentality, the middle ground between primitive being and bro science biohacking culture. We bring you training methodologies and product reviews from the modern day caveman perspective. We are on a quest for excellence in life, business, and mind. Our aim, help you optimize your now and realize your future potential. Join us in the cave of Crockett, California for the left coast caveman mentality.
All right, you've started recording. So this is 39, 38 just posted YouTube, Left Coast Caveman YouTube. Just posted tonight. It should be up within the next, 15, 20 minutes or so. But yeah, brother, it's 8:38 p.m. Pacific time. We ready to roll? You got anything to get off your chest before we get into the nitty gritty?
No, I'm just happy to be here, man. It's on the precipice of a 3-day weekend. I'm hoping you're going to be able to enjoy it as much as I certainly plan to. Anytime you can cut the work week short and extend that weekend, man, it's a fucking good time.
Ooh. Did you catch me at the right moment in time? Oh, wait. Just wait. Today's introduction. Are you outside? I hear crickets.
No, maybe I shut the door. They're loud.
That's fine. No, keep the crickets going. I like the crickets.
Yeah, good ambiance.
Yeah, good ambiance.
These dudes are ripping it out there. They're celebrating too.
Today's introductory statement. Episode 39. So, what does Napoleon Dynamite and Napoleon Hill have in common? Napoleon Dynamite, have you seen the movie?
Oh, love it. I'm not familiar with Mr. Hill, though.
Napoleon Dynamite, so if you recall the storyline, clearly, an individual who maybe not on his A game in terms of achieving the best of his circumstances. He's being bullied, he's being punked, he's getting shoved into his locker by the by the bully. Everybody has the nemesis in life, whether that's their own self, their circumstances, what have you. And the story continues, and Napoleon's life is a bit of an anomaly in this small town, and he seeks and finds inspiration. He finds inspiration. And then he takes decisive action. Deliberate action, but he doesn't broadcast that to the world. Nobody knows what Napoleon's up to. But Napoleon's accidental inspiration, let's say perhaps inspired by a romantic relationship, hence there's our first direct tie to Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill was I can't remember, like circa maybe 1920s. I could be wrong on that. Somebody could correct me, but wrote about, he studied like the Carnegies, and he made a career out of studying successful people and writing about sort of what are the key common denominators that make successful people. But one of those things that he wrote about in one of the chapters, I think it was chapter 10, which there's a long format mosaic type video on Left Coast Caveman YouTube channel entitled Sex Transmutation Napoleon Hill. So there's our first tie-in with Napoleon Hill and Napoleon Dynamite. So they're inspired by some romantic relationship and they start taking decisive action in their life. And of course that changes things for Napoleon. And he gets his friend gets what is it? Pedro gets the gets president or whatever. An unlikely scenario turns into a heroic, the story of a hero and a story of triumph. But it really was in the moment of inspiration and decisive action. Well, that's kind of what Napoleon Hill talks about too. He talks about, and we already introduced sex transmutation. If you want more information on that, I suggest Left Coast Caveman YouTube channel, sex transmutation. But taking action in the form of what Napoleon Hill refers to as connecting often with your mastermind alliance. And that's what we're doing here today, every single week. It doesn't matter what day, what comes in our circumstances, what gets in the way of it. We decide every single week we come here and we're collecting inspiration. Our whole goal at Left Coast Caveman, modern hunting and gathering, including mindsets, nutritional modalities, fitness modalities. We collect it throughout the week and then we discuss it. But, that decisive action of putting something on the calendar, which is what we're going to talk about today, and taking consistent action, connecting with your mastermind alliance. I don't know about you, but like people in my life, and it was funny that you mentioned, taking a long weekend, or a lot of people were off at 3:00 today. Oh, Mark, hey, can we cancel the meeting this afternoon? We're taking off early. It's a holiday weekend. And how many people out right now are just out having a good time? Here it is, Friday at 9 p.m. Pacific. You and I, Mastermind Alliance, somebody who's on the path, taking decisive action, connecting with somebody. Here we are doing this. With that, that's my introduction for today's show.
Love it. And those goals of taking action and having fun, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, because I'm having a pretty good time right now, man. This is where I want to be.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. But all right. So last week, I think like kind of getting to the point is what we kind of talked about last week. But we usually every single week, we're going to touch base every Friday, same place, same time, about 3 key tenets of our way of life, the Left Coast Caveman way of life. leftcoastcaveman.com was where we hunt and gather and source information for a better well-being, and we post them there on those 3 key tenets: nutrition, fitness, and mentality. And I think that the key segue here from what we just talked about is the commitment to the calendar. Last week or the week before, I don't remember if it was 37 or 38, where we talked about just do it. And like Napoleon Dynamite, he didn't talk about what he was up to or what he was doing. He just started taking action. Do you remember the scene where he's like busting out? He went to the library, he's hunting and gathering, getting information, gets this video where he's inspired by the dance moves. And then he just starts, learning moves, not knowing at the time that was going to be applicable to him becoming a success, or more importantly, creating the success of somebody else around him, which is another key tenet of what we do. I mean, really what we're doing is all about trying to hunt and gather and get inspired by information that we can share with other people and improve their way of life. But that commitment piece and the commitment to the calendar, I was inspired by this commitment to the calendar when I was at the bookstore with my daughters, looking into like old Aztec and Mayan culture. And, conquistadors came and explored that territory of, Mesoamerica. And one thing that they noted of, one of their, I guess, key attributes of that culture was like their attention to the calendar. And so I started thinking about that. I'm like, how often in our lives, I mean, in corporate culture, it's normal, send me a calendar lock, this and that calendar lock. But like when it comes to your personal endeavors and like that idea of, okay, what do you do with an idea? What do you do with inspiration? What do you do with something? The idea of the calendar as a primary mechanism through which you can achieve progress, and through which, I mean, like the Mayans and the Aztecs, they used the calendar. It was like central to their lives. They recognized, look, we're finite human beings. The calendar, like it means something. We're tracking how many hours, days, months, years we have here. And like, what can we do? Like either ceremonially within that time frame, or like in our case, more so probably just making progress, committing to the calendar and what that means for progress.
Yeah. I mean, I think it certainly builds consistency. And I think in any endeavor, it's probably one of the more critical factors of anything is being consistent. And I mean, the calendar is essential for my consistency in my training, in, you know, my extracurriculars, staying on top of things, being on time. I mean, it's really important, man. And I hate the fact that I do schedule like my fun hours and such. You know, if I'm gonna, my kid's soccer game, my jujitsu classes, I'm a little more lax when it comes to like my weight training and such. But it does help, man. It helps defines your day, right? If you have a few key tie downs throughout the day of like these commitments that you made to yourself, either a class or your involvement as a father, or to your point, what we're doing right now, that really helps focus your whole day in, right? Because then you have these parameters by which you're going to operate and do things in between, but those are your commitments, and it really shapes your day. And I think that's important. Think about one of those. I don't know how many of these you have, because you've got a very busy at-home life also. But man, if you got nothing going on for a Saturday and you're not motivated, and you'd be amazed at how quickly it slips away. You go, oh man, I didn't get much done today. All right, it'll get away from you without those tie downs. And I think that's what's so key about having a properly scheduled, set up calendar.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, we recognize, taking away from like the esoteric, let's say, we can recognize that in ancient times and ancient cultures, like the calendar was important. Time became important. Time, you always hear time is money. It's like negative. Time is time. Money is money. Time is a finite asset. You're only given a certain amount of time. And you don't
even know how much you have. That's the thing.
You don't even know how much you have.
It's finite, and the big joke is you don't know how much you have though in that wallet, right? It's kind of a weird concept, so it makes it even more valuable, I would say, just by that mystery alone.
Yeah. And so I'd say like a cave meditation on this topic, or like what to do with this topic, is recognizing the utilization of time, even when it comes to indulgence. Like you're saying, like, well, we enjoy this. But let's say, you just want to schedule time to even just go out and have a good time. How many people approach their lives like this? Monday through Friday, I work. Saturday and Sunday, I'm off. A holiday, I'm off. And they just don't even consider the fact of how much time that is. Like, do you ever crunch the numbers of, 2 days a week of complete F off? How many years of your life do you lose? Or do you take account for how much time you just waste throughout the day scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, looking at news? Whereas if you like micromanaged your time, how much productivity could you get? If you say, okay, and I have on my whiteboard over here, I've got a whiteboard here, I got a whiteboard over here. It's like, how could you carve out your ideal week? What would that look like? From 4 to 6 a.m., what are you doing? What's your ideal week? Are you meditating, stretching, doing something for your well-being? And then, okay, from 7 to 9, are you doing something active? Not something rigorous, but something active. And then from 9 to 5, let's say, or from 9 to 3:30, are you putting in your hard working hours? And then from 3:30 to 5, are you doing something more like training on your craft and doing some learning or something like that? And then from 5 to 7, are you getting in your exercise for the day? And then from 7 to 10, are you doing your entrepreneurial endeavors? It's like, that's why energy is important, is because you need energy to get through that much time. But what's more like costly to your energy is getting through all of that time and realizing you did nothing. Whereas I've always realized, like, if I use my calendar and really schedule out time, like bing, 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 my calendar invites are going off every 15, 20 minutes, every 30 minutes, then I feel like I'm accomplishing something. And then what happens, that fuels me to accomplish more and to do more, and to like, okay, if I've got 2-3 hours, I'm going to fill that with something. Whether that's, hey, I'm going to take this time to learn, to read. All the things that you say you're going to do, hold yourself accountable to them, and then invite others. That's the power of the calendar too, that I've found, is that including somebody else on that calendar invite, like you or me or like somebody else or some key stakeholder within that whatever project you're working on, that holds you accountable to making sure that you do it. Because to me, if you're like me, I feel like a complete loser if I'm like, no, man, I can't make it. You're like, you don't want to be that stroke, always making an excuse of why you can't be there. So the calendar is a powerful tool for that too, is just invite other people, get people on board, and that way you're committed. You have to do something. Committing to the calendar.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, you had your calendar set up to where you would check emails only a certain portion of the day, like it was a scheduled block, and I don't approach it that way, and I probably should, because one thing that I think happens for myself and many others is how distracted and off course you can get by that little bing, and you go to that, and you were working on this project here, and all of a sudden bing, now you're pulled over here, and then by the time it takes maybe a few seconds or maybe a few minutes for you to get right back into that activity as you transition, I mean, how much time is lost in that? So I would argue that a calendar and actually segmenting out your tasks for the day, that helps you be more efficient. That helps better quality during those blocks when you're actually doing that. And it probably saves you time, if you want to accumulate it throughout the day, and now you might have more at the end of your day to, I don't know, put onto whatever other project you might be working on to help you escape that trap.
100%. Engineering your time like an engineer.
If you don't do it, somebody else will do it for you.
Right. Or you're just going to waste a bunch of time, and then it'll sap your energy. I've always noticed that anytime I engineer my time, I get a lot more done, and I'm energized to do more because of it.
Yeah.
You realize how much time you have when you start to do that, because everybody uses that excuse, oh, I don't have enough time. It's like, well, did you realize that you spent an hour today scrolling through Instagram? Did you realize that you spent an hour today just gossiping with people about other people? That's 2 hours. Multiply that out. So, and then going back to the earlier theme about Napoleon Hill and the Mastermind Alliance, like how much time do you spend with people who aren't aligned with your purpose or your goals? Like, are you spending time right here? It is Friday night. Look around you. Are the people that you're spending time with aligned with you achieving your ideal life, whatever that is? The path that what's it say, 5 minutes left in the meeting? What's it talking about? Dismiss. This thing thinks it can control my time, right?
Did you schedule something else, Mark?
You know what I mean? Like, how much time do you spend around people that have nothing to do or aren't aligned or aren't on the same path as you are in some way or another, at least on a parallel path, doing something else, accomplishing something, propelling you towards something in your goals? Like, how much? Like, to me, I don't mess around with people who aren't on my Mastermind Alliance. I got you, I got several other people. I can count on maybe one or two hands that I mess around with, because I think of my time as so valuable, so finite. At this point in my life, I don't have time to mess around with people who aren't on the path towards better well-being, whatever that means for them. Succeeding in their craft, developing their craft, giving back to others, trying to make this world a better place. I don't care about politics. I don't care about anything else. And it's like, how much time do you waste worrying and fearful about things that don't matter, and surrounding yourself with people who aren't aligned on the same path as you are? That's another thing to take into consideration.
Yeah, I think there's a natural parsing that occurs in your mid-30s. I've noticed it. I've been around other folks that have noticed it as well, is that as you get older, your friend circle shrinks. And, I was actually consoling someone the other day about, they were alarmed about that, felt lonely. And I think it's a good thing, though, right? Because to your point of wasting time and being mired by things that don't matter, it's like, you got to be more specific with how you're going to spend your free time. And I feel that as you get older and you get more commitments from the family side, and you're more advanced in your job, so you might have to work a little bit more. You have to be more critical of who you include in that circle. And I think it's a natural parsing that happens. It's kind of cool, because I don't know about you, man, I probably only have less than 5 people that I would call my good friends. Like these are the ride or die people. And of course, I've had more throughout the years, but I feel as years go on, that circle certainly shrinks, and not because I'm mean or they're not good people, but I just think there's a natural parsing that happens as we realize this finiteness of time, and we have to be a little more structured in our off time, quote unquote off time. But we're always on technically. But so I think that's interesting. I mean, how many you mentioned? How many people would you say are like your true friends, man? Like somebody you would call right now and they would pick up that you want to call? Yeah,
just a handful. A handful.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a natural phenomenon that happens, and yeah.
If they see a call from me, they're going to be a little bit freaked out. So maybe they'll pick up just to see what kind of crazy stuff might come out of my mouth. But that's how I am. I just people have either been scared away from me because I'm a little bit nutty, I'm a little bit crazy, I'm a little bit idealistic, I'm always trying to drive forward, or they're I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, but I'm lucky to have figured out at this point in my life, though, that I don't have time for fantasy. Anytime I hear somebody about fantasy football, I'm like, I don't have time for fantasy in my life. I don't have time for sports. I don't have time for stuff that doesn't align with my path. If that's an alignment with somebody else's path, so be it. But we'll kick it on. We'll try to segue this into the next topic, which is that, obviously every day we feel the Left Coast Caveman way of life, which is why fitness modalities is one of our core tenets of the 3: mentality, fitness modality, nutrition. Fitness modality, clearly every single day trying to carve out time for fitness. In committing that, I never usually put that on the calendar. I try to have a mild approach where it's like in the morning, I'll do some kind of functional movement, do something that I'm on my feet, I'm simulating a fat burning, like some kind of a brisk walk in the morning or something like that. But we discussed this week about specifically fitness, the level of exercise that you do. Is it considered an exercise? This is the fitness topic of this week. Is it considered an exercise if you don't sweat till you're wet? I think a core tenet of Left Coast Caveman way of life, sweat till you're wet every single day. That's the goal. Like if you're going to work out at all, if you're going to go through the motions of working out, why not sweat till you're wet, like drenched? Figure out a way to push yourself to a limit that makes you perspire to the point where you're dripping. That's when you know you've gotten there. And if you can figure out how to do that every single day, what are the benefits? Obviously, your skin is your largest organ. Okay. You get a lot of programs out there that are like like probably $300 to $500 average, like your detox. What do you need to detox? Like sweating is your primary detox mechanism. It flushes your lymphatic system, keeps your lymphatic system moving. I'm a big fan of like the idea of the fluids in your body. Back in the day, like in King Henry VIII, I think, like back in the 14th century, probably 14th or 15th, some history buff is gonna probably knock me on this one, but like it used to be medicine to think that I think it was called your humors had to be moving. They thought that like if you were sick, it means you need to like be bloodletted or you need to like secrete some kind of fluid. I'll leave it at that. But King Henry had some freaky ways of secreting his fluid, let's just say. But the premise is actually accurate. They were onto something. It's a matter of the fluids inside your body are secreted through your skin, which is your primary mechanism of detox. So all these people that are on this detox thing, it's like, well, just sweat till you're wet every single day, problem solved. I think that there's probably some more nutritional modalities that we could get into down the road about detoxing, which will be valid and probably beneficial to your health. But if you want to detox, if you want to boost your metabolism, if you want to have a healthy immune system, you name it, the benefits of sweating profusely in a workout. Is it a workout if you don't?
Yeah, I see it as a thing of pride for me.
I think of pride.
Every time I work out, I wanna leave behind a disgusting puddle. Like, I love the fact that when I'm doing something, I can hear the dripping. Maybe I'm doing push-ups and I can hear the dripping, the splatterings on the floor as I'm doing it. Like, I love it. I mean, I don't think there's anything. I mean, you think about immediate satisfaction, right? So when you're working out, you're not necessarily going to see, after, from 1 hour to the next, you're not going to see your muscles growing. You might have a pretty solid pump going on, but you're not going to see like your muscles are just, they grew because of that session. You're not going to notice your cardiovascular system becoming more efficient, better at processing fuels. But what you will take away is from when you started to when you end, that's sweat. That's your that's your badge of courage for that workout. That's your satisfaction. That's your result. And of course, do that enough times, you'll start actually seeing results from muscular to endurance. But to me, it's. I mean, I sweat a lot too, and that's one interesting thing about people that are we'll call them athletes, right? Anybody can be an athlete. Somebody working out 5-7 days a week. They sweat more. Your body becomes really efficient at cooling itself. So, and I certainly see that because I'm a sweaty guy, sweaty maybe to a fault, sweating in inconvenient situations. And it's kind of funny. I was listening to some material on sweat, and I don't know about you, man, but when you give a presentation or you're in a social situation, do you ever notice your palms getting that uncomfortable sweat film? It makes it a little awkward when you shake hands. Have you ever had that happen to you?
I don't have it happen often. No, like every once in a while, if I'm on, I say the only time it happens to me is if I'm on an important meeting early in the morning after on the peak of my caffeine high. Okay.
Yeah. So there's an actual reason why your hands sweat. Maybe more noticeably than other areas. Other areas are sweating too, assuredly. But so I guess mammals have this function where they sweat in their palms and their feet, their paws, and it's to help give them traction for escape.
That's pretty cool.
So, and it's not about that. It's going to give me a chuckle next time I have a presentation. I'm shaking hands afterwards because as I'm shaking these sweaty hands, I'm thinking, wow, I want to get the fuck out of here. My body wants to beeline it out that exit and get to some trees and go somewhere. Yeah, get out of that situation. I thought that was really interesting, and that one's going to stick with me for a while.
I'm comfortable in public speaking situations, but I never knew that mammals sweat from their palms as a survival mechanism to escape. And so I wonder what the armpit sweat is all about too, or like the forehead sweat. I've noticed a lot of people will get the forehead sweat when they're nervous. Why sweating when you're in a nervous type situation? I mean, generally speaking, we think of sweating as a detoxing mechanism. Never thought of it in terms of fight or flight and those kind of scenarios. So that's interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. It's essentially pre-cooling your body down for action, right? So it's saying, hey, you're about to escape, and we're going to make sure that you're nice and cool so you continue to escape. And you look at most animals out there that have fur and such, they don't have that ability to sweat. So they have to respire via their mouth. That's why you'll see dogs and other animals with their, panting. And that's the way that they cool their bodies down, through the wetness of their tongue.
Well, to me, though, I mean, in terms of like cave mentality, we have to decide at some point. I mean, depending on the exercise, I would say that our fitness modalities for me is primarily at least 5 days a week of hard work, of building or application of strength in some sort, whether that's combat training, strength training, building, functional movements of some sort, whether it's whatever. We could go into that in the more fitness modalities down the road, but you should, for me, in terms of the Left Coast Caveman way of life, like in those 5 times, like when I'm working out with somebody, I'm assessing their sweat level in terms of how hard they're working. Oh, you're not working hard enough. Okay, we need to figure out how to, like if I'm training with somebody and I'm sweating and they're not, my thought is I need to figure out how to get you to sweat more because you're not working hard enough. Something's not working here. So you need to go jump on the treadmill while I'm in the middle of my set, or like we need to get you moving. We need to get you working harder because what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. If you're not sweating, you're not detoxing. And when you're in a detox state, the nutrients that you take on afterward are more, they're more easily absorbed into your body. You're getting rid of the toxins. build without like getting rid of the junk. Like you're not going to build a new home on a pile of shit.
Yeah.
You know, the detox process is important. So when I'm training with somebody, I'm always trying to get them sweating. I'm trying to get them working, unless it's a workout but like the today on Fridays, I usually do some sort of like a total body, but only body weights. I don't touch many weights, maybe one heavy hold, but I'm sweating from the infrared light, but I'm not sweating from like working hard. I'm just trying to move my body. So that's the only time I'm not like seeking, I would say, a sweat during a workout, but it's more than pride for me. It's more like necessary. You should sweat hard when you're working out. That's a sign. That's a clear sign that you did well.
Yeah. I mean,
you left it on the floor.
I mean, literally, right? I mean, and back to humors. I mean, not that there's some credence there, but yeah, it increases the circulation, right? So your body's taking in fuel, it's producing waste, it's circulating it out, it's cycling it out, and it increases your metabolism. So it jumpstarts the growth hormone, it jumpstarts your repair mechanism. So it circulates every cell of your body in a way, right? So it's super important, and it's a good litmus. I mean, obviously, as I caveated earlier, if you're new to fitness, you might not sweat as much. So there's one watch out right there, because your body just isn't used to it. But as you get going in your fitness career, your fit body, you're gonna start sweating more. And for me, it was alarming actually. Like to the level I sweat. And it's like, well, no, this is a good thing. Your body is responding well to the stimulus. It's cooling itself down so you can continue to perform. It's a good thing. I mean, I think one takeaway that I just recently learned, I'd love to share out, is about like, because I sweat a lot, and I was thinking like, well, is that necessarily a good thing, bad thing? How do you rehydrate? Like, how do you know what to rehydrate? And so there's a kind of a cool litmus on that where, and I don't do this often, but I should, is do a before and after weigh-in to assess like how much fluid that you actually lost, right? And they say that losses of fluid greater than 3% or greater definitely degrades your aerobic performance, degrades your mental performance. So that's something you want to watch out for. So you just take a measure of your lean body mass and multiply it by 3%, weigh yourself and see, oh man, did I lose 4 to 5 pounds? Absolutely, great. So then you want to roughly rehydrate with about 16 to 24 ounces per pound of body weight that you lost. That's that's pretty intuitive. I think we all already do it. But I think when you're exercising in incredibly hot climates, or you're in the jiu-jitsu room and you're just sweating through your gi in just an uncomfortable way, that rehydration and understanding kind of how much you're losing and how much, you could develop, pretty much a rubric for how much you need to replenish in terms of water afterwards. And as I said, I think most of us just do it intuitively because, you drink till you don't want to drink anymore. But if you want to take it to a more granular level, that's kind of a quick and easy rule.
Yeah, I drink so much water throughout and after a workout that I probably don't have to consider it. But for a lot of people who don't, and who neglect their hydration, which is another topic that we need to cover at some point, proper hydration. What was that ounces per body weight again?
So 16 to 24 ounces of rehydration per pound of body weight that you lost.
So a bottle of water per pound of body weight that you lost.
Yeah. I think
so you'd have to weigh in before and after.
Yeah. I mean, and you do it a few times, then you can establish kind of a cadence, right? I don't think it's something you have to do all the time. I mean, I'm a curious guy, so I'm gonna do it. But
how often? What do you typically, when you've done that? Because I don't even own a scale, first of all. But what do you notice as typical? I think I remember like back in the day, if I want to have my scale. If I was doing a hard workout where I was sweating till I wet, it seemed to be like about 3 to 6 pounds.
Yeah,
that I would lose.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're an athletic guy. Your body's well adapted to working out, so you're gonna sweat. And I've worked out with you. You don't take it easy.
Yeah, and anybody who works out with me knows. But yeah, it would be another good topic. It would be proper hydration post-workout. I'm going to jot that one down as follow-up, but also like minerals and things of that nature. But on the topic of nutrition, we'll get into our last deal. We're trying to keep these to 45 minutes. We're at 43 and 25 seconds. So we did episode 37 on Left Coast Caveman YouTube channel. We have episode 37. We talked briefly about collagen, and neither one of us really knew about type 5 and type 10 collagen. I noted I talked about the Vitamin Shop supplement that I had been taking often. I had previously been taking collagen peptides from Costco. It comes in a big blue bottle. I can't remember the brand, but it only had type 1 and type 2, possibly type 3. Well, this type from the Vitamin Shop had type 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10. You and I were both scratching our heads at what type 5 and 10 are. And I'm really hoping that you did a little bit of research and then could translate it into caveman speak, because what I noticed was type 5 and type 10. PubMed had me freaking thinking I was in science class all of a sudden. I mean, I don't even know how to heterotypic fibrils, all this kind of stuff in type 5. But basically, it works with type 1 to build like the core structure around muscle fibers, the rod-like basic structural units of a muscle fiber.
Oh, interesting. So maybe that's like the fascia, right? Like the structure around the muscle. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, consuming it seems like it works well with type 1. It's kind of like, why not have both?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like amino acids, right? You want a complete panel. Why would you take a supplement that has only a few, where, you can get one that has, I don't remember if it was like 13 or maybe it would way more than that. But yeah, I mean, I think the more the better, especially if you're not paying an exorbitant amount more so. I mean, I think that the key ones to remember, though, are type 1 and 3, which pretty much is ubiquitous in most collagen supplements. And then the other one that's usually somewhat harder to find is that type 2. And that's the one that helps you out with articular cartilage as well as like managing systemic inflammation.
Okay. Well, the type 10 also talked about our articular cartilages, and it said endochondral ossification of articular cartilage. It's like, I don't even know what that means. But what I summed it up to is that it's good for your bone health. So like it strengthens your bones and your bone formation. It helps prevent fractures, and it promotes healing of joints, remodeling of cartilage, essentially. And, you don't know. Okay, so it's like you can't really know for sure. There's something to like, hey, if you take 10 shots of tequila, you're gonna get drunk. You take 10 scoops of collagen protein that has type 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 in it for 5 days in a row. Do you notice that level of a difference, that light switch type difference? Maybe not. But if you get, the trash can rolls over your Achilles tendon while you're trying to pull it behind you on your path or alongside your house, well, maybe that's the difference between you then needing a surgery after that and somebody else who doesn't. You know what I mean? You never know. But what I mean by that is like these people that are more prone to injury or more like, to me, I have noticed significant decrease since I've started taking this type 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10 with the Vitamin Shop. Like less popping and like more just flexibility. You even notice something like, you did, your hair looks good. I'm like, that's a little bit weird, but maybe there's something to it. And like,
yeah.
When I shave, it's like it used to be that kind of thin skin, and now it's just like boom, 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 like rhino skin. Like it's definitely like improves your hair, nails, skin, and then like the cartilage and like my elbows don't hurt as bad. And like I've noticed, like when I'm doing chin-ups, I don't get as sore in my elbows as I used to. I feel more mobile. I feel more fluid. I feel more flexible. And there's something to that. And there's something to the fact that, look, we need it in our diets, period. We historically, our ancient species would have had it in our diets. We don't get it as much. So supplementing with it helps when you're not eating primarily animals.
So you touched on something so very important right there. I mean, in the name itself, it's a supplement, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think it gets a little muddied in terms of, well, I don't notice a difference. While taking it, it's harder to discern any sort of like significant difference in performance or whatnot. And obviously, there's proxies. I mean, my own little anecdotal is I have a drawer, and it has pretty much a brace for every part of the body. You name it, I've got a brace for it. And I would say since doing the collagen consistently on top of a healthy, balanced diet, at least in my opinion. I haven't been wearing those. And I go to the gym, and one thing I pick out on, especially with many of the people I spar with, is if they have a brace on, generally, it's good etiquette to go, hey man, is that thing okay? And maybe you won't wrench on it, that ankle as much in a lock, or you might not Kimura the shit out of their arm as much because their elbow's messed up. I haven't had to wear a brace in quite some time. And I'm not saying it's not my future, because things do happen, but I feel like there is a certain degree of safeguarding and the ability for my body to have the constituent parts necessary to rebuild after each training session to, ensure that I'm not going to get injured over time due to degradation and improper healing that eventually result in that catastrophic crash, smash, whatever it is that destroys your ligaments and tendons. It's a supplement. And I think if you're eating a really educated diet, meaning you're getting all the main food groups, and you could probably be okay without supplementing. But
Agreed.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't always do the right thing, or I might eat be deficient one day, and this will ensure that independent of that diet, you're still going to get those nutrients necessary for repair.
Yeah, because explain diet. That's another topic we could go into from nutritional modalities. Is like, well, is it needed daily? Because like this type 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10, if you start looking at where are the primary sources of that, it's like, okay, meat, fish, eggs, the skin of animals, the cartilage of animals, the sinews of animals. It's like, well, if you're not eating that every single day, or even like you can get it from marine sources and things like vegetables, like what's the one? It's going to escape me. The real like dark green one.
Chlorella?
No, not chlorella. Freaking A, man. What is it called? It'll come to me later. Spirulina. Like all of these collagen sources that are fish. And so yeah, if you're eating all this stuff, then you're probably getting collagen. Eggs, egg shells actually have collagen in them. But yeah, how do you keep that common denominator across your diet, and something that's so important like collagen? Or like we talked about last week, gourmet mushrooms have a lot of important vitamins and minerals and health benefits. It's like, well, you could take a powder every single day that has all of those adaptogens and all those different mushrooms that are important for your neuroplasticity and to prevent neurodegeneration and these kind of things that are good for your neurological health. It's like, yeah, well, most people don't eat mushrooms, or maybe what kind of nutrient density is lost in processing too in our modern environment. How do you maintain that? Well, supplementation might be good for you. So we're doing good, man. We got to the point where under an hour.
Nice.
We touched on our 3 main points, and I think that tying it back to the introductory, the Napoleon Dynamite and Napoleon Hill, I would say that hopefully somebody's inspired by at least one thing that we say here, and that's the idea. And it's like, if you can take this type of information, for me, that's what's important to me, and that's why I connect with you as part of my Mastermind Alliance, is that I usually learn something from this kind of dialogue that I can apply in my life immediately, and that it changes me for the better, whether it's something nutritionally, something fitness wise, getting in my sweat, going for the sweat every single day, but trying to implement this into your life into a way that can promote better well-being. That's the idea. And you don't need to tell anybody about it. Be like Napoleon Dynamite. Just do it silently in the cut. And so we'll I know that we have more topics that we can go into, like that segue perfectly, because we're talking about like the whole left coast caveman way of life is developmental, and this will develop into like more complex topics as we go. We're covering off the bases right now. Okay, so once you commit to something, then what does that mean next? What's the next step? What's the next step? And we talked about like time and money and these kind of things that we can dive into deeper. And that's the whole purpose of this cast too, is to kind of like then further explore those topics. I just messed up that's the Left Coast Caveman recording it right here. Just gave it a good bump. But, how do we further explore those topics? Or even like we were talking about Napoleon Hill, the sex transmutation and like primitive man being, this was something that like Freud wrote about a lot, was like primitive man being inspired to create and build more by like romantic relationships, or like the desire to achieve higher levels of success in whatever environment they're in, for the sake of just, increasing their well-being, but then also attracting mates. And like all these different topics we're going to go into on this cast could be like an endless exploration. So that's what you can expect every Friday here on, the LCC cast.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said earlier, I just want to end with this. Or I want to introduce this thought, because Left Coast Caveman way of life versus your, let's say, standard human being way of life. What would that be? Standard human being, SHB? LCC versus SHB, standard human being.
Don't be that guy.
Because standard human beings are differ from Left Coast Caveman, because I would say that another topic we explore from the mentality standpoint is human becoming versus human being. And what is the difference? And things like, your typical human being is saying, your standard human being, SHB. Your SHB are the type that say like, oh yeah, I'm going to take, I'm off by 3:30 on a Friday, on a holiday weekend, and I'm going to take 3-4 days. And I know you said this as just kind of like a, hey, how's the weather today in Discovery Bay? Because I know you, and you work all weekends. You work harder than I do. So please don't take this the wrong way, but your standard human being would be the type to say like, okay, it's a holiday weekend, time to just let loose and have fun and indulge and all these kind of things. It's like, well, going back to the topic of time, like how much time do you lose if you do that every single time? Maybe there is time for that. Like, when is it time to indulge? That's the topic. That could be a topic for next week. When is it time to indulge? How do you schedule indulgence on your calendar? Well, for me, it's like, I don't indulge. I need to shore up my indulgence a little bit. I can't say, well, it's a holiday, so Monday's an off day for me. It's like, well, what did I accomplish to allow myself to indulge? And I just posted something not too long ago on my page on the Mark Mr. Wolf that was something like that. It's like, so many people take Saturday and Sunday off. What is that all about? Does that come from, where do we get this idea of a weekend? Where do we get this idea that a holiday means take time off? That just gives me a full day to work on LCC versus having to answer emails about shit that I don't care about.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy indulging the escapism. And when I say escapism, I escape from that corporate life that's very necessary and important in its own rights. But the weekends is a time when I can get my real work done. And that's important to me. I mean, it feels like time off, even though I'm putting time in. The weekends are the time where I get those long bike rides in, where I get to drill some jujitsu with my friends, when I get to research, when I have an increased amount of energy, just in vigor, because I'm not stuck doing business on behalf of another entity. This is business time for this entity, and it feels like time off, and that's what's cool about it. A 3-day week is exciting because I'm gonna get to research some cool stuff for myself, for you, for Left Coast Caveman people, and for those standard human beings also who have those same strong biological drives. They want to do they feel it in them, and I feel like that they feel it and they escape it. They don't understand what that signal really is. We all have it, and it has to be cultivated, and we have to almost a remembrance of where we came from and where we're going, and that easily gets masked by you spend your 5 days a week, those 40 hours, plugging in, doing work on behalf of whatever entity that is, and then you just want to escape and repeat the process, and you mask, all those feelings and those drives with alcohol and other sordid activities, which, hey, there's a time and place for it, man. I love booze. I love debauchery. I love fucking wasting time on Netflix, absolutely. But I think once you start getting more in tune with those strong biological drives of accomplishment, of building the body, the temple, and it becomes harder to ignore. And then I think your weekends take more shape as that drive is heard.
Yeah. Amen, brother. Well, we'll see if the Aztecs celebrated weekends or the Mayans, and it's part of their calendar. We should that could be an interesting reading topic over the weekend. But anyway, that's 39. It's a wrap. So we'll I'll be in your neck of the woods this week. So we should get speaking of jiu-jitsu and the mats. We could use a little instruction from the Sylvester. Safety and strong. Safety and strong, baby.
Hey, it's good you mentioned that. Hold on just a second.
All right.
Last piece, man. Since you are a jiu-jitsu dynamo, I got you something. It's loud, it's out of control, but that's kind of, when you do jiu-jitsu, you have a license to wear out of control stuff. So next time you get here, man, you got a nice rash guard waiting for you here. So.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You're too much. That's this week, man. That's this week.
And the mushrooms are going to arrive by Tuesday. So hopefully we can do it Tuesday forward. Ideally.
Tuesday or Wednesday. What day works better for you?
Let's do Wednesday. Put it in the calendar.
It is. Put it on the calendar. That's right.
All right.
All right, man.
Yep. Later.
Hey, check out YouTube. It's 38 is on. 38 should be posting sometime tonight.
I'll get it on the site.
This one's 39.
Outstanding, sir.
All right. Have a good night.
Yep. Bye.